When I was 13, I had just finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Hunter x Hunter, my first ever real anime. I watched Dragon Ball as a kid and played every game known to man, but these two were the first I ever really went and searched for and watched for myself. Shortly after finishing, I had an itch for more, and I found myself watching Fairy Tail, something that I have a very, very mixed and complicated relationship with. But right at the same time, something brand new had just started coming out. Something everyone was talking about, and my brother showed me, knowing my obsession with superheroes. And that thing was My Hero Academia. At the time, the very first season was coming out, and it was probably only on episode 7. I immediately clicked with it and fell in love. The shy and awkward main character Izuku Midoriya reminded me of myself. Yes, I know, as I'm sure he did with all preteen boys. But I was entranced by his selfless nature. The very first episode made a point to show you the heroic nature buried deep in this wimpy little kid. And I was moved beyond a doubt. I wanted to be like that. And from then on, I was going to be following this story for 9 years. And now I want to share that story with you. This won't be some comprehensive, in-depth analysis, but rather a celebration of what it was for me and for so many others, and express why it means so much. Before I say anything else, I do think the first episode of My Hero Academia is one of the best first episodes in anything ever. But besides that, my relationship with the anime is complicated. I watched it seasonally up until about halfway through season 4, and then I just started reading it. This was right when I was getting into reading manga, having just binged One Piece, and I was itching for more, and My Hero Academia was one that just made sense. I kept seeing stuff about how the current arc, My Villain Academia at the time, and the manga was just amazing, and I loved the show, so why would I not? And I'm so glad I decided to read when I did, because it was right around season 4 when the anime started making some questionable decisions, and this is where I got introduced to Horikoshi's art. Good God. Anyway, all of this I can talk about later. Right now, let's talk about My Hero and its impact. My Hero, I think, is the first classic from the quote-unquote new-gen era. The era so loosely defined and very much a pop word just thrown around for fun. This is a stance I'm willing to die on, though, and I think the only counterpoint would be Attack on Titan, but I have 2 arguments. Number 1, I'm talking shonen classic. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, the big 3. Second, I think the love and appreciation for AOT did diminish a lot after its end. I don't necessarily think that's because of anything within the story, whether you like the end or not. It was impactful, but maybe it was the release schedule, who knows. I just don't think it kept that motion. But there is a fact to be had here. My Hero changed the game. Seasonal anime was already starting to get its footing, but MHA is what solidified it as the standard for the shonen format. Because of the explosive popularity, seasonal got its foothold on what should be done. Like Black Clover, which back in the day was considered the equal to MHA, went with the continuous release schedule. And honestly, it did not end well for it. And I think a lot of MHA's success is because of its seasonal and near yearly release schedule, keeping the hype up and keeping a good pace with the manga to avoid any real filler or slow pacing, as well as the movies, non-canon movies. That's a lost art. My Hero's impact goes so deep, especially in those early days, and the main point I want to go on is this shit right here from season 2. This changed some fundamental chemistry in my brain, as well as so many others. So much inspiration from this exact moment can be seen drastically throughout the years to come. The ramping up of the animation cuts and an intense action sequence, this style right here, this shit meant something to so many people that countless animators have explicitly said it inspired them to pick up the pen. This then goes for so many moments that have gone down in the books as being incredibly animated and in every Sakuga compilation you can think of. All Might versus All for One, Deku versus Overhaul, Infinite 100%, Endeavor versus the High End. Come on, man, so many incredible moments. No matter what you think of this manga, the art on display here is impossible to not gawk at, especially as it goes on. It's just some of the most clean and dynamic art I have ever seen, and deserves all the praise it can get. Horikoshi's ability to convey emotion and impact lends itself greatly to the fact he isn't focused on fight choreography or intricacies. His art definitely lends itself great to crazy good fight choreography, but it is even better for his real focus in the characters and how they interact. Whether it be through visual metaphors, subtle storytelling throughout the characters and their designs, it's fantastic and it makes such an electric reading experience. But it's also just so cool to look at. Look at how raw this is. This is what I mean, impact. He can make you care about any random character because of the little details. The grand expressions, whether it be pain, grief, joy, rage, horror, you can tell what these characters are feeling and what mix of them they are. And I mean, it's just flat out beautiful to look at. This man's ability to draw and captivate such a wide range of emotions and stakes is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. There's no wonder people get so salty comparing the anime to this. Like, how are you supposed to animate this? I want to take a second and focus on Deku's art and how wide of a range Hori draws him in. He is either the most muscular classic hero looking motherfucker here, or a terrifying amalgamation of willpower, or just a kid. A kid in an All Might t-shirt with a dream. It's delusional because he spends the whole story trying to create this dream of being a true hero, but in these two instances, I think we see the real him. And no, I don't mean the fact that he looks like a villain, quote unquote, or deranged, because no one would ever guess he's a hero, because he isn't what this world expects out of heroes. He genuinely fights tooth and nail to save others no matter what, to fight and to keep going. He's not your picture-perfect hero like All Might. He's a kid full of heart and determination to save. Characters. That's Hori's greatest strength. To some, I think Hori's writing genuinely becomes upsetting because he finds a way to make you care so deeply about his characters and the themes told through them that it doesn't go exactly how you expected it to. You feel let down. You feel hurt. But I want to focus on some of the most important characters and their dynamics and say why I think they do work so well. All Might and All for One. There is so much to be said about these two. The classic hero and villain dynamic. It's so well done. All Might as a character, you just can't bring yourself to hate. I have seen so many people claim he is the epitome of hope, the epitome of heroism. He's the symbol of peace. That is his whole thing. Super strength. Can practically fly just by kicking the air. He's cool. And he saves with a smile. That is a superhero. And All for One. The Demon Lord. The most despicable, terrible villain you can imagine. But they both have so much more to them. All Might you meet as this fantastical person. And within the first chapter, first episode, you realize he's kind of not that anymore. He's a human being who got hurt really bad and just isn't the same person. He's defeated emotionally, physically, in a way. He doesn't view hope the same way. He doesn't view heroism the same way. Not terribly nihilistically, just slightly less than what you would expect from him. And it takes this quirkless kid running into a supervillain to save his friend to reignite that light in him. I think people forget how lost All Might was at the beginning of this story. He had practically given up. In his mind, he beat All for One, but not fully. And in the process, he got beat. He had almost given up. And I think that is why I love the fact that All Might did survive the story. Number one, because I think it is a great twist on the classic mentor dying, whatever, trope, that All Might isn't your classic mentor. He is his own protagonist in a different story. He is somebody who gave everything for this. And this little kid saved him from his own fate, which we'll get to a little more later. But I do personally adore the fact that All Might survived and ended up being quirkless. But All For One, the other side of the coin, just despicable. I love everything we learned about him throughout the story. And even everything with his backstory, you just keep hating him. My favorite panel with any of these villains besides Shiggy is this panel right here. All For One just being such a pitiful, lonely man. That's all he is. He said it himself, world domination was a secondary goal. He was an emotionless, spineless kid, and he just wanted everything. Mainly his brother, because he got out of his sight. He didn't care or love for his brother, he just left and he wanted him back. He really is just despicable and terrible in every way, and I just love it so much. Because you just hate him, especially with what he does to Shigaraki at the end. Just fucking terrible. But he does a very, very damn good job at being the final boss, the villain to end all villains. There is really no competition. Shigaraki is the best written villain in My Hero Academia, bar none. I love the League so much, every single one of them, but like, come on, Shigaraki and his dynamic of being the hero for the villains is just so beautiful. It's incredibly well done. You have this kid who looks up to his grandma, secretly being a hero and wants to be that, but due to a lot of tragic circumstances outside of his control, he never gets the chance. He ends up being groomed, manipulated, trained to be, well, he got trained to be a host for the Demon King, but trained to be a destructive force. The symbol of destruction, the symbol of, not the symbol of fear, the symbol of destruction. And in that, he finds this beautiful freedom that I really adore. And his care for his comrades, his care for those around him, his care to be their hero, because he understands that it isn't that simple. It's not that they chose to have these terrible things happen to them. It's not that they chose for society to fail them. But he'll be damned if he's going to let that stop him. He is going to set them all free. He is going to create a free world. He's going to destroy everything in his way for him and his friends. It's not incredibly different, but it's subtle in the fact of his growth from the beginning to the end of the series. He has some of the best character development for a villain in anything I've read. His development is so cool, and a lot of that is because of his own arc. He got My Villain Academia, his own arc. Like, that's so cool, and it's something that I wish we saw more of. Just really diving into these villains, antagonists, and seeing what makes them tick in an in-depth way and making them grow. Not just depth of character, but growth of character. Show them becoming them over the course of the story alongside our protagonist. That is so cool, and it makes the dynamic with Deku so much better, because you see both of their sides in depth. You see their growth in depth. You see what gets them there and why they are opposing. Let's talk about love. Ochako and Toga have such a fantastic dynamic and one of the best subplots in the whole show. But I do think that there's a lot I don't know really how to talk about, because it is very feminist in nature, of course. But what I will say is I hate when people get mad at Ochako for having a plot centered on love just because she's a woman. Like, that's the whole point. She runs away from it for so long because she doesn't want it to hold her down or make her any less. Because she's a woman. She hides her crush on Izuku Deku for so long because she thinks it's going to hinder her. She goes and hides behind her pretty normal dream of just, wanting money, wanting to help people. And then at the same time, Ochako rounds out in this great way of learning that who's going to help the hero smile after they help everybody else smile. And I think that's very intrinsic to love as a concept, as a theme. I want to start out talking about Ochako with her speech to Deku when he runs away and he gets taken back to UA. And all of the refugees are yelling at him like, no, you're the problem. You're going to be what leads them here. You're not safe. You're not going to help us be safe. And then she gives her great speech about how this is his Hero Academia. It shows her very selfless love for people. Whether it's romantic or not, she feels for him. It goes a bit deeper than just this altruistic, I am going to save everybody, and more of a deep care for these people. I think that shows a lot about her and how she acts. Her whole point of, wanting to be there, help the heroes smile when nobody's there for them. It's a love. It's a care. But eventually she accepts that there's multitudes to this. And that is when she erupts and awakens her quirk, and in a beautiful moment reaches out to this girl who's lost and alone and says to her very blatantly that she has the most beautiful smile. And she defeats an entire army. If Ochako didn't do this, that final arc would have been lost. So, yeah, I don't like it when people get mad at Ochako for having the love plot because she's a woman. That's the point. Is that love isn't something that should be hindered to a gender. It shouldn't be something that should be viewed as less. It is a powerful thing, a beautiful thing. It's exactly the way Toga's story is so tragic. Toga, to me, represents a lot of very toxic love. This losing of herself, that she wasn't normal, she wasn't good for people, she was a problem, she was wrong. She had a weird smile. She liked blood. Something was wrong with her. She never got the love she needed. And so, she grows this very toxic attachment. This reflection of others onto herself. It makes so much sense with her quirk. She turns into those that she loves because she doesn't know who she is. Looking for yourself and others as a way to escape what is wrong with you, what you think is wrong with you. It's so upsetting. Thinking about it like that. And that's why when Ochako reaches out to her, it's so beautiful. She melts away the facade of being Ochako and she just turns back into her and gives her life for Ochako. Love isn't about turning into somebody else. It's not about changing who you are to be good for someone else. It's about giving yourself to another person. It's about being you and having somebody else look at you and say you're beautiful. Love is a complicated and powerful emotion, and every time any story talks about it, I'm really going to look at it, and I'm going to judge it how it should be. Because love shouldn't be some surface level, blah, 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 oh, let's get these two characters together. No. Love is something deep. Love is something human. Love is something powerful. And I think My Hero Academia does a great job of inserting a subplot about love into a story that would be really hard to do otherwise. And make it make sense with the story. And make it be long running and make it work. I love these two. And I love their story. And I think it's so, so good. I didn't really know what I wanted to do for this part. But I think I want to say that who am I to tell you how to feel about something so sensitive, something so, well, maybe not so, too widespread. If you want to forgive, that's your right to forgive. If you don't want to forgive, that's your right to not forgive. But I think, to me, to see a father try, to see a father do everything in his power, not to be forgiven, but simply just to atone. I think, to me, that resonates a lot, shows a lot. And I know it's silly to think so in depth about a fictional, dysfunctional family, but Todoroki was always one of my favorites for a lot of reasons. I love everything about this story, and if you don't like it, I think that's totally valid. I think that's totally fine. But to me, I appreciate the nuance. I appreciate the different ways that everybody reacts to the trauma, to the difficulty. I think it shows a lot of maturity. And I think it's really quite something that it ends the way it does. That Dabi ends up the way he does. And that Todoroki ends up the way he does. Forgiving himself, forgiving everyone, and moving on. Just moving on. I think one of my favorite lines at the end is something along the lines of an announcer talking about Todoroki as a hero, and something like they love him so much they almost forget that his father was Endeavor. He's made such a name for himself, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's really cool. That even though Endeavor as a hero wasn't a bad hero, I really liked, a lot of people really liked his stunt as the #1 hero. But the fact that he's moving away from that, both with his father as a hero, both with his father as a father, and he's being separated. He's moving on, both in the public eye and in his own self. I think Todoroki's a really cool character. I think Endeavor is a very in-depth, very well-written character. So much so that I really, really liked him at the end. And that's saying a lot. I really did like him. And, I could talk about, his fight with the Nomu was so hype, and, him recreating All Might's pose was so hype, and yeah, that's true. But, I really appreciate the maturity, like I said. And the rest of the Todoroki family, I really appreciated with their different reactions, their different ways they went around this terrible thing. And Dabi, of course. God, I love Dabi. I love Dabi so much. The way he reacts, the way he puts it all on himself, being some kind of failure, being some kind of mistake, and then turns him into this, sacrificial lamb of a monster just to destroy his father's life. I think it's really tragic. I think it's, to me, I think he has the most tragic story in the series. Dabi does. And especially, you guys know me and my thing for brother storytelling. Todoroki and Dabi really hit home, just in how tragic it is. Todoroki keeps trying to reach out, keeps trying, and it doesn't work. Even when it does work, Dabi gets back up and it doesn't work. And it takes everybody, the whole family, coming together to get there, to reach Dabi. And my favorite moment between Dabi and Todoroki is 100% right at the end. Todoroki's last line to Dabi in the series is that they both just love soba. It's their favorite food. I think that's so cool. Because that's what being brothers are about. You know, you're going to be different. You're going to fight, take different paths, do different things. But at the end of the day, you might just like the same food. I think I got a little too existential about some fictional family. But that's the thing about My Hero. It's not for any specific reason that the Todoroki family maybe hits a little more. I mean, maybe there is, I don't know. My Hero just really hits home for me in a lot of ways. That's why I love it. One of the best dynamics between a protagonist and deuteragonist I have ever read is Deku and Bakugo. The growth, the back and forth between these two throughout the series and their parallel journeys is beautiful, especially Bakugo's growth. I was someone who really did not mess with him for a long time. Let's not act like Bakugo wasn't the absolute fucking worst at the start. Like, he was just a jackass, and honestly kind of annoying. I cannot imagine someone really being a fan of him, besides just as a rival, I guess, and even then, I've seen so many better rivals. Until he had some of the craziest character exploration in the series. Like, he had such an explosive and incredible growth that when he fully dies, it is the most emotional and one of the most impactful moments in the series. And when he comes back, it's so hype. And the anime team made the best episode with him. But the moment I knew we had something special, and I mean truly special with Bakugo, was Deku versus Bakugo Round 2 at the end of Season 3. There's a reason Miles fucking Morales referenced this kid and this moment. The kid who bullied and lashed out hard at someone who he saw as weaker and lesser in a society built for competition. This kid destroyed his hero. He got kidnapped. He is the reason the greatest hero, his greatest hero, had to fight again and lose his power. And then that same weak kid that he used to bully is the one chosen to succeed the greatest hero and pick up that mantle. I know he sucks at this point, but he is a 15-year-old kid, and this weight breaks him. And that's why I love that he does actually beat Deku in this fight. He might be an ass, but he is nothing if not full of conviction. Then, with his sacrifice in the Paramount Liberation War, his body moving on its own to save Deku, then his apology. As Deku moves farther and farther past him, he comes to terms more and more with the fact that Deku has always been better than him, more of a hero. The life of comparison, it culminates in this moment, right before his death, when he awakens his quirk. Almost this whole video is about Deku, but his bond with Bakugo is one of my favorite aspects about his character, because it really, really shows you who he is. He always viewed this jackass as an ideal. Not because he was nice, but because he saw his talent and ability, and he wanted that. That at the height of the final battle, when all seems lost and All Might is about to die, and Kudo warns Deku if he gear shifts again, it's over. His absolute vision of victory must be in sight. And when Bakugo gets up, he doesn't hesitate. He is Deku's vision of victory. And Bakugo gets the chance to avenge his past failures and truly solidify himself as a great hero, evolving his quirk and saving his hero. And he gets to be the final boss to the greatest villain of them all. The end. I really want to give this the attention I think it deserves, but I'm honestly struggling to find the words, because this series is very special to me, and I want to be blunt about it. Deku is a true hero, fucking down to his bones. He spurs others to act, he creates hope little by little and breaks his body down till it physically can't anymore. He appreciates quirks more than anyone, and with only a handful of quirks used them better than All For One or Shiggy ever could, because he learned them and he cared for them as the precious gifts that they are. Someone born without these gifts, and instead of being greedy, instead of getting shallow, he just sees them as they are. Gifts. Deku's final run, his rising. In the manga, it was beautiful. But I came back and had to add that this shit made me cry and scream out of hype and care in the anime. This was his story. Despite a few bumps, I think most everyone can agree this final arc was amazing, with some fantastic character work, top to bottom, and some amazing spectacle. The epilogue was amazing and thorough, and yet I still somehow wanted more, just because of how much I love these characters. I really don't get people's complaints with the epilogue. I think it was beautiful, and I think it really touched on everything it needed to. Deku and Ochako and Todoroki family finally getting their closing. Bakugo crying because he wanted to chase with Deku forever. It's something. And I think the end of all the villains is tragic, and I think that's on purpose. And I think if it upsets you, the story did what it wanted to. I really think that Deku not fully being able to save Shiggy, but instead freeing him from his own hatred, is the best way that this could have ended. He freed him from his own shackles of his mind. Shiggy isn't that kid anymore. That's naive to think he is just that kid. It's naive to push aside the 15 years of trauma like it wasn't nothing. Shigaraki isn't just the trauma, though. He can still be that kid. He's both. He is him. And I think his final moments of accepting that and being the hero for the villains and letting go of that hatred, do your best, beautiful. What are superheroes? Why does everybody love them? I think heroes are born from dreams. Look back on the history of heroes. If we go back to myth, they were different, selfish, and deeply human. But they would go to the ends of the earth for their desires, love, or family, or whatever it was. Then, at the birth of the classic superhero, something changed. The creation of Superman was different. He simply saved. His ethics were a little different in 1938, but man, he just saved people. Wife beaters, evil scientists, gang violence, he stopped it all and inspired hope. From him, you had all the different types emerge. The grounded crime fighters, the mythical warriors, the relatable kids, the super teams, the underdogs, the tragic fallen, countless and countless spins on this single idea. The idea of saving the day, of saving others. This is where we get to My Hero Academia. At its birth, almost 80 years of countless superhero stories have been written and rewritten, born and died. So what could MHA offer that was different? What could Deku do that was different? Well, I think that's the beautiful thing. The story itself confronts us with that. We already have All Might, the Superman, the symbol of peace, and the strongest there is, the man who crushed villainy, who made crime rates plummet. But it wasn't enough, was it? Villains aren't just pure evil. The world's issues don't just go away when you beat up the Demon Lord. Kids get abandoned. People get murdered. The world rejects. And from this rejection, evil emerges. The terror, the rage, and the destruction, and any normal person wouldn't forgive that. And you shouldn't be expected to just forgive. It's human to hold grudges, to be angry, and to want revenge. It would take an almost psychopathic level of kindness and empathy to see these villains and still, no matter what, try to reach out a helping hand. And yet, Deku is that hand. He is that hero. He is the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box. The inspiration to others to get up every day and to try. What does it mean to be a hero? It's not about the flashy costume or the cape, and it's not about throwing your life away, breaking your arms to run in and save someone helpless. It's about trying. It's about hoping for better, not only for others, but for yourself. To not follow a strict law set, not even a strict moral code, but to believe in what's right for the betterment of others, the little guys. To believe someone can always do better and give them that chance. I'm not the first one to say this, and I won't be the last. But you too can be someone's hero. What does that even mean? It means getting up every day. It means doing your best, no matter what that looks like. To my brother, my hero, for lighting my path and for showing me the way when all seemed lost. To my friends, every last one of you who inspires me every single day to be newer and better and greater and kinder. To those I don't know quite the same, thank you for allowing me into your life in whatever amount that was, and changing mine just that little bit. And to you, every single one of you at home who gets up and inspires someone else simply by being alive. Thank you. You are my inspiration and my hero. We still have the last little bit of the anime, and probably a few more movies, but it'll be really weird not having this to fall back on. This has been in my weekly rotation for years. This was a story that grew up with me, and its absence will absolutely be felt. So thank you, Horikoshi. Thank you for this amazing story and showing us all what it means to be a hero. Thank you all so much for watching. You really thought that was it, huh? No, we're not ending the My Hero Academia retrospective on some kind of bittersweet note. Fuck no, I love this show!